I feel like we can all agree that one of, maybe the best bang for your buck acquisitions from the trade deadline was the Florida Panthers acquiring Vladimir Tarasenko from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for a third rounder in 2025 and a conditional fourth rounder in 2024. Naturally, when news of this trade first broke, everybody was dunking on the Ottawa Senators for how light of a return this was, but we would soon learn that the only team Tarasenko was willing to waive his no trade clause to go to was the Florida Panthers. So the Senators' hands were tied here. I feel like we should cut them some slack. The only return they were going to get for Vladimir Tarasenko was going to be whatever the Florida Panthers were willing to give them, which was a third and a conditional fourth that could turn into a third if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. I guess that's just one of the benefits of being a team located in South Florida and being at the top of the NHL standings. A lot of guys are going to want to come play for you. The Tarasenko trade wasn't the only example of this happening at the trade deadline either, as it was also the case in the Kyle Okposo trade. The Buffalo Sabres went to their former captain, asked him where he wanted to go, and he chose the Panthers, so the Sabres made that happen. Now, it's one thing to think a team got a really good deal in a trade, but we never really know how things are going to work out, what the fit's going to be like, until guys actually start to play some games with their new teams. And in the case of Vladimir Tarasenko specifically, it's only been a couple of games, but it's looking like he's going to be a beautiful fit on the Florida Panthers. He came in and was immediately slotted in on the top line with Alexander Barkov and Sam Reinhart, and yesterday against the Calgary Flames, in just his second game as a member of the Panthers, Tarasenko had his fingerprints all over Florida's 5-1 victory. He finished the game playing around only 13.5 minutes, but in those 13.5 minutes, he had 2 goals, an assist. All 3 of those points came at even strength, and he also had an assist on a goal that was called off. Tarasenko would finish the game with an expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5 of 66.17. I'm sure there's a handful of you watching this that are familiar with the Twitter account Hockey Stat Cards. Basically, they post game scorecards for every NHL team following every NHL game, and Tarasenko finished yesterday's game with a whopping game score of 3.75, which, looking at this stat card that I'm going to flash on the screen, was far and away the best on the Florida Panthers. So far, so good for Vladimir Tarasenko in Florida, even with the power of hindsight. I do think the Panthers were probably the best fit for Tarasenko and the way he plays at this point in his career. Still a very skilled offensive player, which was on full display yesterday against the Calgary Flames. He's fantastic at creating chances off the rush, but for the most part, he does not play defense at all. So going to a team like the Florida Panthers, and especially playing next to somebody like Alexander Barkov and Sam Reinhart, who are both fantastic 200-foot players, it should allow Vladimir Tarasenko to only focus on what he's good at, which is creating chances and finishing them. In my opinion, the Florida Panthers did very well at this year's trade deadline. Despite not making a ton of moves, they were able to improve the roster and only gave up minimal assets. And for a team that doesn't have a whole lot of top draft picks or fantastic prospects in the system anymore, that is huge. So that is going to wrap up this video, taking a look at the Vladimir Tarasenko trade and how he's performed in his first couple games as a member of the Florida Panthers. If you guys have been enjoying these shorter videos sprinkled in amongst the usual content, then be sure to leave this video a like. That is the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're a Florida Panthers fan. Sound off down below in the comments. I do want to quickly thank you guys for all of the support you've shown on the videos throughout the month of March so far. The trade deadline and the week leading up to it was one of the better weeks I've had on YouTube, and that's all thanks to you guys. So just know I really do appreciate every single one of you. And as always, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all again soon.